So, to celebrate the launch of YouthLink Scotland's Youth Work Skills Framework, AYF are just taking a little look at some of the skills that our young folk have learned in their time with us. So the first one we're looking at is looking after myself, which is definitely something a lot of our young folk have learned to do. They'll come to us with maybe exam stress or depression or grief or any number of issues, and we obviously kind of teach them about self-care, about coping strategies, things they can do to look after themselves. Um, creating change is another skill that young people learn through youth work, and it's definitely something that we are proud at AYF to have helped young folk with. Thinking of all different activities that they've had over the years that have come about because of young people. So, for instance, girls football started last year, and that was very much because girls came to us and asked for girls football. So that was something they helped create change within their own community, and possibly the bit of work that we're proudest of on that front is the LGBT club, which was started in 2016. Again, because one of our young people, our MSYP, came to us and asked for an LGBT club, and that's been running for 4 years now. Decision making is another skill that young folk learn with AYF. I think that's probably best seen through Youth Forum. So, just as an example, a few years ago we had funding for our summer holiday programme for our trips and activities, and we had a set amount, and we talked through with Youth Forum what the different costs were for dozens upon dozens of trips, and we just sat with Youth Forum until they had whittled it down to exactly I think it was 15 trips, and they just budgeted based on the costs I had told them, and it was Youth Forum themselves that planned that summer holiday programme. So that's something we try and do a lot of with AYF, is let them do decision making whenever they can. Problem solving, again, something that we'll help a lot of young folk with if they'll come to us. They might have a problem at home, or they might have a problem within school. It might be an ongoing thing, and we just obviously explore different solutions with them and help empower them to solve their problems. Definitely a skill that they learn within youth work. Communication is another one. Just through their years with AYF, that's another skill they'll learn. Relationships, definitely had to help young folk with that before. Just friendships, falling in and out, and different problems that have come up. It's definitely a skill that they've learned. Confidence is a huge one. Confidence is one of the main things that one of the main differences that AYF make. Increased self-confidence. It's one of the things that we report back to our funders on, and we can pretty easily demonstrate increased self-confidence. We've seen it loads of times over the years. Young folk coming into us in first or second year, they might be quite shy, they might not be that good at socialising, they might be very apprehensive at coming in, and within, later, 5 or 6 years later, we're looking at a completely different young person who's part of, they're maybe an MSYP or their own different youth forums, and they're in different groups, involved in different groups. They have all sorts of friendship groups. They're able to get up at events and speak. They're able to go away and represent AYF at things. So yeah, confidence is a huge skill to learn within youth work. Leadership. I think a good example of leadership within youth work is ideally where we can just let our young folk lead groups or help lead groups. So something like Youth Forum or LGBT Club, over time, our seniors have been coming long enough and are big enough parts of the group that they can just lead the session. They can just lead the agenda for Youth Forum, or maybe peer education at Cooking Club or LGBT Club. They can just help some of the younger ones. Teamwork is obviously a massive part of everything that AYF does. Could list any number of activities over the years. We take young people gorge walking, raft building, to escape rooms, all sorts of different activities that foster team building, and it's really nice because you see different groups coming together and different young folk who maybe ordinarily wouldn't mix, and it makes them feel within AYF they feel part of a team, which is great to see. Resilience is another huge skill for young folk to learn. We tackle that in a number of different ways I think one of the best, two of the best ways that we do it. One would be with stuff like anti-bullying activities. So there's an activity that we'll do, so you get like 8 slices of a pizza, and each slice on it has a different way of coping with bullying, and we talk through the different options with the group. So one might be to make a joke back, another might be to tell an adult, another might be to ignore it, whatever the 8 options are, and we talk through the pros and cons of each, and it helps young folk just be that bit more resilient to cope with something that could be really difficult. And in terms of resilience, another thing that we do is teach young people to cope with, there might not always be resources available. You might have a waiting list for CAMS, or you might not have access to counselling straight away. So we try and help young folk, help arm them with the skills to, maybe cope with their depression, or to find some help for themselves, coping strategies, or ways to, maybe get a little bit more sleep, or eat a little bit better, or exercise, or join a running group, or whatever it might be that helps build their resilience while they're maybe waiting on some professional help. And in terms of organisation and planning, loads of good examples of that, but probably the best would be that every year we do a cooking project. So we have a cooking club that meets every Monday, and once a year we go up to the Cranny, which is the big hotel on the island, and we get use of one of their kitchens to prepare and serve a 3-course meal to parents and guests and funders and businesses, and it raises thousands of pounds for EYF every year, and that's all organised and planned and delivered by the young folk themselves. So it's a huge skill to learn. Some of our young folk have done that for 6 or 7 years in a row, so I could let them just run it themselves. They don't need any input. They have chefs there on the night for help, but some of them could just run with it themselves. They're so good at it now. So definitely learned a lot of skills through the years.